It's a pleasure to be here again. I look forward to this. And where is Willie Soon here? Hey, Willie, I got breaking news from IPCC. They've got a model now that's 100% accurate, northern and southern hemisphere. And the model predicts global warming every summer. And they're talking about trying to get astronauts to explore this solar thing and fly to the sun. So when it was brought up that it's pretty hot, they said they were going to fly at night. Okay, enough of that. Let's talk about airplanes. What is it? I don't need it. I don't need it. Well, for some reason, I guess it's human nature. Whenever you say something secret, people are curious. And some of us went to the Oak Ridge tour yesterday, and they pretty accurately described what government secrecy, how it's supposed to work, and to protect the secrets from foreign interests that might be harmful to national security. So I'm going to cover that also a little bit. They'll frequently, though, lump what's called the skunk works. Lockheed got that nickname, I think, from a little Abner cartoon years ago. And what really happened was they were compartmentalized, and so they didn't really tell anybody what they were doing, and that way, I had a small group of people, that way they were able to make airplanes in secret. And since more currently, people talk about, in the case of Lockheed Martin, they talk about the skunk works as being any program an airplane that's made in Palmdale, California, where they moved in 1994. So I'm going to show you talk a minute about, thank you, about that slide that's up there. That took 4 years to build 2 prototypes, and I didn't work on it very much. I was busy working on other airplanes, other jobs. But this was not a black program. This was not hidden. This was an obvious competition between Lockheed and their partners and another group of aerospace companies. So they built 2 prototypes, and they crashed one. And the contract was awarded to Lockheed in 1990, and it took 4 years to build. Okay, and I got some details there on the airplane. You'll see this at any air show on parked airplanes, on almost all. The arrow that's showing there's a space between the fuselage and the engine inlet, and that's because the air real close to the skin of the airplane is turbulent and it doesn't flow very fast. Kind of like skin friction, they call it. It sticks a little bit to the airplane, so you get a more efficient flow of air to the engine this way. And this is a very stealthy airplane, so it's hard to detect with radar. And it's all curved surfaces. But before they were able to build an airplane like that with curved surfaces, they built them with flat surfaces. And so that's what I'm going to be talking to you about, is the precursor to this airplane and another one. What button, the middle one?
No, the right one.
Just okay, thanks. Okay, this one was the last job I had, but again, and it was called the X-35, and then we beat out Boeing and for the contract, and that took 3 years. Now, take a second. We did it faster and we did it with fewer people than the first slide, the F-22, because of the computer capability. It continues, to increase every year or two fantastically. But it doesn't increase as much as you might think, because with more computer power, everybody wants to slice it finer and get more and better answers. So they ask for a lot more. They want to know everything, whereas before computer showed up to help us, back in the day, as they say, with the slide rule, you selected certain key pieces of information that you needed. Now they want every inch described in the airplane and the design of it. So this is the first or second flight of the X-35, which is now the F-35A, and it's hovering over a grating, and you can see there's a burn spot on the steel grating. That's from the exhaust from the engine, which is at this point, that airplane just hovering there like a helicopter. It's shooting exhaust from the engine straight down, and that's the burn spot, or the darkened spot. And then in the front, and the top of the airplane, you'll see an opening, and that is the front lift fan that's sucking air in from the top and pushing down so that they can control it in pitch. And they have an elaborate set of controls and control laws, and they went through a great deal of development testing, and there's a great, really excellent, it's 2-hour Nova special. I think it's on YouTube, but it's 2 hours, and it goes into the details of the development of this airplane. Now, I'm going to show you a 2-minute video about this airplane and show you how we beat out Boeing, the competition. Because Boeing's airplane, this is it. The video I'm about to show you is at Edwards Air Force Base, and it's a little over 2,000 feet in elevation. And so we flew it, and I'll describe a little bit during the video what happens. But Boeing couldn't get theirs to get off the ground there, so they had to take it to sea level and East Coast and find the lightest test pilot they could find, and take some doors off and other non-essential equipment to get it to do what I'm about to show you in this 2-minute video. Please. You'll notice how quickly it gets airborne. It's just 150 feet, something like that. Yeah, he's up in there. You see, the engine exhaust is pointing downward, but at an angle to go forward and up. Okay, now he's almost stopped and will soon be hovering with no forward speed at all, 0. You can see the engine exhaust, because that's hot and sooty. In front air, you can't see it because it's just clear air. you can see some motion in the engine exhaust, a little wiggling, part of the control system.
And coming down right in the middle of the path.
You know these airplanes won't fly without music.
Keep it going down. Keep it going down. Come on, baby. Come down, come down, come down, come down. Touchdown.
And the competition couldn't do that, and so that was a done deal as of that moment, I think. Okay, next slide, please. Nope. Wrong one. Should be the U2. Just skip. You want me to do it? Yeah. There it is. Okay, now this is a U2, famous. Gary Powers got shot down in one, and lots of people remember that. And it's still flying. It has some, I worked on it as late as 2005, and that was the last time I worked on it. So I'm not going to talk about it, except it is a glider with an engine. And how high it goes and how far it can fly, and that is still off limits. I'm not talking about it. So let's, next slide, please.
Yeah, try to remote. It might work now.
Okay.
Right button.
Right button. Okay. Now, after the U2 is built, this was also, the U2 was a Skunkworks black program where it was secret. So was this. Now, interestingly enough, the name of this, initially, this airplane was Y-12. And the CIA requisitioned or hired Lockheed to build that airplane. And the reason there's laughter, for those of you who didn't go on the tour, is there's a building in the Oak Ridge facility called the Y-12 building, and it has no significance there, and it has no significance in this case, so maybe that's insignificant designation. There's a couple things about this. It's primarily a titanium metal, and I got to say that it's a fantastic material, but it's very hard to machine, and so the metallurgists did an unbelievable job, and I got to say something about the metallurgists. You know, commercial aviation, any airplane, hot engines. In this case, this airplane gets up to 500 degrees. It goes same speed as a 223 bullet. That's the M16 bullet, or for the gunners, Mini 14. But anyway, it gets so hot at 500 degrees, so it's more than twice boiling temperature. And how they did it, they came up with an alloy, roughly 90% titanium and 4% aluminum and 7% vanadium. And then they don't heat treat it, they call it annealed, but it's just, they put it together, make the metal, and then they had to make it uniform so that you could know what the real properties were. And so the metallurgists, I don't know any famous metallurgists, I mean, they're unsung heroes, but without them, we wouldn't have commercial aviation either. So the main trick associated with this airplane going 3,100 feet per second, Mach 3 they call it, but you know, over 2,000 miles an hour, is those engines, where it says adjustable cones, those spikes can move in and out hydraulically. And what happens, there's a shock wave once they get supersonic, comes off the point of those two cones, and the shock wave has a pressure ratio across it. This pressure ratio is the same as having a fantastic turbocharger, because at the altitudes they want to go, the air is very thin, the molecules are a long ways apart. So this, in essence, gives air to the engine as if it was at a lot lower altitude. So it can really perform and go fast because there's no drag up there because there's not that much air. So that's the main thing about the SR-71. And the this stuff they came up with at 500 degrees has the same properties, strength, fatigue life, everything, as if it was at room temperature. It's just amazing. I've used it many times since to solve structural problems. Okay, let's see. Let's go to the next one. The right one. They did this with probably 40 people, and they did it in 22 months. And they always told us, I've worked on it a little. I worked on a tape recorder that was vibrating, and that's my thing. And it was dropping out, and so I worked on that a little bit, and then we put a ramjet on top of it. But I always said 80,000 plus feet. So, and they made that, don't talk about anything else, 80,000 feet. So this was published in 93, I think, 1993. This book is called Lockheed Skunk Works, the first 50 years. It says, and it talks about numbers above 80,000. It talks about under what conditions it can go 85,000 feet high in altitude and 90. So they're not in jail, so I don't think I'm going to jail. All right, now, let me do this. I bet this airplane's been retired since the late 90s. They retired it once in 94, and then they brought it back because they didn't have satellite coverage all over the globe at that time, and there was some war thing going on, and they wanted please don't get me talking about war. I don't say war anymore, I say mass murder. So I want to clear that up. Anyway, it's a little bit fragile because you see how long the fuselage is and kind of skinny. And they put a drone, the CIA wanted guns on it, and they wanted to make an interceptor out of it, a high-speed interceptor. And then they put a drone on top, and it worked fine for 5 deployments. The drone would separate and go. But 6th, maybe the 7th time they did it, it hit the fuselage and both crashed. So they stopped that program. But it's still, what, 62, 40 years old and still holds speed records. World speed records. It's just amazing. Now, a little serendipity happened. 2 months ago, my friend, had a friend that I don't know, who has a friend that I don't know, sent me some photographs of these airplanes. When they built them, they didn't want to fly them out of Burbank because they didn't want anybody to see them. So they put them in great big containers and took them by truck to the Nevada desert. So I'll show you these photos real quick because this is going to take too long the way I'm talking. Okay, they sent in advance, if you can see it, there's a pole horizontally that was the width of the container. And so what happened was, but it doesn't have the depth, so they're moving it through the desert, and it's in the box. And I don't know who took these pictures. I don't know who put those labels on there. They just came to me. Okay, now, this is unbelievable for me. They had to take some dirt away, and they say that dirt had to be moved to get through, and you can see it just made it. But then the next slide, this says, in the hangar of Area 51. Now, I can promise you there are no cameras allowed in Area 51. But if that's true, the only thing I can think of is that they moved 16 of them from Burbank to here. That somebody in the moving crew had a camera, and they moved so many that the security people just got used to these big boxes coming in, and it just fell through the cracks. So that's inside of one hangar in Area 51. Okay, this airplane I really want to talk to you about because you never got a chance to see it up close or touch it. They always had an armed guard. They always had it roped off at any air show display. And you seldom got to see it fly. They fly it in and then fly it out at the end of the air show. So I'm going to talk to you about that. I just wanted to show you this picture, and we'll talk about the details because there's some brilliant engineering in this. And I'll get to that in a minute or two. Okay. The black, they're called black or carve-out programs so that nobody knows they're going on. And one of the strange things they do is they give it a name. Half Blue was a precursor to that, and then Senior something. Anyway, they give you this name. They clear you on the program and say, okay, the name of this is secret, so don't ever say it. Why did you tell me it? So the way I handled that personally was I forgot it. So later, you're working on 2 or 3 different things, and they'd say, well, what about Senior Trend, which is that one? And, what's that? What do you mean, what's that? You're cleared, you're working on it. Oh, well, I just don't know the name. And they thought that was strange, but I thought giving the name and then telling people not to say it was strange. Okay, this airplane was designed, they said, build the F-117 as quickly as you can, and don't worry about it having 12,000 hours of flight life built into it. The first 2 I showed you, including the video, their design life is 12,000 hours. And they said, don't do that. Give us the airplane as quickly as you can, and then we'll pay you to fix it every year as nuisance failures and cracks develop. Okay, I'm not in the skunk works yet. I'm out there working P3, S3, L-1011 was finished, other airplanes, and one other program that's still classified. And they started flying in Tonopah in Nevada in 1982. Well, as they started flying, little things went wrong. And so, let me go here, show you. You can barely tell there, but it's a V-tail. Can I go back with that one?
Yeah.
Okay. So you see the U.S. Air Force funded us with $100 million a year for structural fixes and upgrades.
The middle button's a laser pointer.
Oh, okay. Thanks. And so what I found, well, first of all, I didn't go right in there. The first thing that happened is they brought me these drawings, and they had no labels. They had taken the labels off, and it just was a big black thing. And they said, here's the noise levels on this side and the noise levels on that side. So I knew it was in the engine area, I mean the exhaust of the jet, because of the noise level. But you're not supposed to speculate, so you don't say anything. And they said, well, it's cracking, how can we fix it? And so I helped them, and they left. But as time went on, more and more things broke. Failures, little cracks. The engine cover is aluminum on this airplane, and they had 20, on one airplane, they had 20 little cracks. So they couldn't bring me all of these drawings with the labels taken off. So they took me over there. So you go through the rigmarole and you sign $10,000 fine, 10 years in jail if you tell anybody, and they scare you, and it works. So what happened was, then they take you to this building and say, okay, you have special access, you're good to go. Open the door, and I saw the production line. They built about 52, I think, of these. I saw the production line. I'd never seen that before, that airplane. And it was on the ground in the manufacturing building. And your jaw drops because it looked like a Batmobile. And will it fly? You know, are you kidding me? Is this for real? And see, what we didn't know was the stealth. At that time, they didn't have the computer power to analyze curved surfaces in terms of radar dispersion and backscatter. So they have all flat surfaces, and they're all at angles so that you send the radar beam, that whoever does that to you, it doesn't come back to them, it goes over there. And that's the main idea. So now this is Operation Desert Shield in 1990. That was precursor to Desert Storm, and so we sent 45 airplanes. They're lined up there. We sent 45 airplanes to Saudi Arabia, and but we did a clever thing. We added these cylindrical tubes, to one each in the bottom, and attached to the bottom of the flat surface of the airplane. So you can see that on radar. And then there's something on the top. I can't remember what it looked like, some blob on the top. So it made it more visible on the radar. So when they got over there, the Iraqis said, oh, what's the big deal? We can see that airplane on the radar. And then that was during Desert Shield, and they flew around that way. And then when Desert Storm, the fighting started, they took those off, and then suddenly they took that off in the top thing, and suddenly on a radar screen it looked like a sparrow, the same size as a small bird. And they never saw it coming. So that's one thing that they did. But interestingly enough, from my standpoint, that tube has a lot of turbulence behind it, and it caused cracks on the other side of the wing. Let's go to, okay. They have pop-up antennas, so I'm not absolutely certain of what you're looking at. You see right there, there's an antenna on the top. It can be raised and lowered. And so it cleans the airplane up, you pull that down. I believe that's an add-on. And there's one there, but I can't be sure. Anyway, that's the idea of it. And you see it's flat on the bottom. Now this has got to be a practice mission because it's daytime. They only flew these things at night and only bombed at night. And here you'll see the white. So they didn't put this coating. They have what they call RAM, radar absorbent material. It's rubberized with secret stuff in it, and it coats the whole airplane. So that's a reason it was cordoned off at any air show, and that's a reason you didn't get to touch it. And there was an armed guard there. I don't know what they did to you if you touched it, because the idea being you could go like this and rubber, get on your fingernails, and take it and analyze what that rubber coating contained. And so they don't want you to know that. They only opened this a few seconds before they'd release the bomb, and then the bomb would get there a few more seconds. So they had a name, some sort of a ghost, the Iraqis called this thing. And when they saw it show up on the radar, when that door opened, they knew that if they were in that targeted building, then they knew they were about to get killed, and they would run out of the building. Okay, Now we get into some interesting details. It's really incredible, some of the things they did. I'm not going to talk to you about the back of the airplane because I think some of this really great ideas they incorporated in the exhaust. You also have the problem when you're under attack of a heat-seeking missile. So the exhaust of any fighter is hot, any jet fighter, and so the heat-seeking missile can find it. So they cooled it down, and I'm not going to show you anything in the backside. I'm not going to talk about it much, but I can tell you this. That's the inlet to, it's a twin engine. That's an inlet to one of the jet's engines, and there's one of these on the other side. But down here, there's a slot, and that takes air from the front and runs it out to the back and cools the exhaust so that you don't have a hot spot for the infrared, for the heat-seeking missile to find the back of your airplane and shoot you down. This is a V-tail. You can't see the other V because it's behind this refueling boom. Let's see. And that is a forward-looking infrared. You can see at night. And funny little story about that. It looks clear there, but there's really a wire mesh like this, horizontal and vertical. And it started breaking when they moved from the Nevada desert to Holloman Air Force Base in New Mexico, because New Mexico has thunder showers and cloudbursts. So the water would hit it, and it would be guided right up this trough here and into the opening there with these wires. And so the wires started breaking, the horizontal ones. And so I got involved in fixing that. So we made some heavier duty wires, but not too heavy, because that would block the infrared signal view looking out for the pilot view, and also make it visible to the radar. What it does is it disrupts the return signal of the radar, but you can't really see it. Okay, so we tested the new one, and the question came up, is it going to be noisy? You know, there's a lot of air passing through it. Have we got a guitar going there or what? So we took it to the lab. I was involved in this, and we put it in a horizontal position, and we blew the air straight up. Now, at the roof of the building, we had a sliding door, opened and closed, and because it was a Russian satellite, we'd fly over every hour or so, and we had the schedule, so we could only test for half an hour, and then we'd close that because we didn't want them to see the test article. Okay, where we screwed up was we needed smooth flow air, but the air came in horizontally. So a couple of bright guys said, well, we got to turn it vertically. Let's get those articulated straws that you drink water out of. We'll gang 10,000 or so of those together in bunches, and we'll turn them 90 degrees, and the air will be smooth, and we made that turn, and it's not going to be a problem. The only thing was, what happened, it worked fine at first, and then we had old insulation in the big pipe that gave us the air running horizontal. Some of the insulation came off. It got behind those straws and pushed them right out. And 10,000 straws went through the roof and came out outside, and security guards at the main shack said, the engineers have just blown up building 107. And you go, so we're done, so you go out to your car, and where you have your windshield wipers on your car that are recessed, there's all these red and white candy straws or whatever you call them down in there, and there's straws all over. And the groundskeepers the next day were very unhappy. You can imagine. Anyway, see, what else is on this slide? Oh, yeah. These are, look like ice cube trays almost. They're rectangular grids. And they actually help the engines because they straighten out the flow. And they're at an angle so that if a radar pulse goes in there, it'll bounce around and it can't get straight out. It goes at an angle off this way. I should have put an arrow there. It goes off this way. So it really reduced the signature. Then you have 67 degrees sweep of the wing back. What this does, though, creates a heck of a problem because the airplane is unstable. Without computer, pilot can't fly it. It would just tumble. So the computer has to work, and they have to get good data into the computers. So they have 4 computers. They have 4 what they call pitot tubes that measure the airspeed. And there, 4 pitot tubes. And for some reason, people think they're guns, I guess. And for some reason, they called it F. F is for fighter. This thing doesn't have any guns. It's a bomber. But anyway, let's, I think that's my final slide. Yeah. Okay, now I want to talk to you about this. Here is that forward-looking infrared system. And we improved that, doubled its capability, distance that it could see in the dark. So what happened was, when we made that improvement, it was made by Texas Instruments, and they wanted to vibrate it and make sure it was robust design, so they sent me down there. The way they send you is you represent yourself. You don't represent any company. They give you cash, you go buy your airplane ticket. Lockheed Travel doesn't do it. You're all alone. And then they give you a hotel that they anonymously make a reservation in your name. Okay, so I go down there. I'm in North Dallas, LBJ Freeway, whatever it is, and their Texas Instruments is, I don't know, 20 miles away. So I go there, and I have an old Air Force buddy that's there. So I called him up, and I said, Woody, why don't you come see me? We'll have dinner. He said, okay, where are you staying? I said, Marriott. Oh, over by Texas Instruments. I mean, you know, you think you're being stealthy yourself, and you're not. Okay, I mentioned the inlets to the engines. If you notice closely, you can't always tell from this view, but straight lines, they make jagged, so make those jagged so that they don't reflect as a line, and the trailing edges same way. And this little thing here is the same shape opening as that one because that's a downward looking infrared. This is a forward looking, and that's downward looking, so he can see the ground. And when we put the new one in, we flew it over Palmdale Desert, and there's a little bar there. And it was about 1 in the morning, and some guy came out to his pickup truck, and he had excess water in his bladder. And we got he had no idea. We tracked him as he was doing that. He's not famous because we don't know who he was, but anyway, what was I going to tell you? Okay, what's that? Let's see. Oh, all of these facets, these flat surfaces, are at an angle. None of them are pointing straight forward or straight sideways. And so everything's at an angle to everything else, including this surface. And you can barely make out the pilot's head. He's got a oxygen mask on. And let's see, what else? Oh, this is for on the ground. This is an extra air inlet because the engine on the ground, when it's taxiing, and this airplane's taxiing, you can see the hot air coming out of the back of the airplane. As it's taxiing, it doesn't get enough air that the engine wants, so the suction created by the engine opens these spring-loaded plates. And once it gets going up in the air, it gets plenty of ram air pushing in, so these close up and you don't need them anymore until you get back down on the ground. Let's see. The engine exhaust, I think that's about it. The airplane's unstable, as I said, and so they just flew at night, and they found out a certain percentage of the pilots get vertigo, disoriented in the night flying. So they had a couple times they flew into the ground, so they had a guy in our department that, not my department, but on the program. And they said, we want you to build the controls in the computer so that, give us a button so that if somebody gets disoriented, they can push the button and it'll right the airplane. So he did it. Glenn, I don't remember his last name. Glenn did it. So they installed it and they put that airplane like this and like that and every which way, push the button like that. So if you get disoriented, it took care of that problem. So they solved it that way. I guess I'm ready for questions. Thanks.
We have a mic here. If anyone has questions, raise your hand. I'll bring it to you.
What do you think today of the F-35 and the time it takes to build it, the number of suppliers?
You asked the right.
You must have some comments.
Yes, you asked the right guy. Okay, we built, in 3 years, we built the X-35, and you saw the video at the end of the test program. And so it's the same engine as the F-22. It's the same engine that they use now on the F-35. So we were in Palmdale, the Skunk Works. We said, okay, we got this flying test bed. You got the temperatures right. You got the noise levels right. You got the same engine. We've got lessons learned, things we learned while we were doing it. We skipped a lot of steps. I'll give you one example. To really wring out the brake anti-skid system like you have on your car, they have one on the airplane, and you go through dry to wet to dry, then you go through wet to dry to wet on the taxiway or the runway because you don't know what flight conditions. We skipped all that. We just landed it, showed that the anti-skid system worked, and moved on because we had a deadline and we weren't gonna. We built a 300-hour airplane, not 12,000 hours. So, you know, we were in a hurry and we were in competition. So we had these lessons learned written up because this airplane's built, the F-35, is manufactured in Fort Worth, Texas by Lockheed Martin. So we said, here, we got lessons learned and we got test data, we got the right noise levels, we got the right temperature. Man, here, go. And they said, no, we don't want your lessons learned. We don't care about your magic. And we're going to start with blank pieces of paper. And the people that were saying this in Fort Worth had never built an airplane from scratch. They were F-16 production. Production is a different problem, you know, making them the same and putting the right parts at the right time and for assembly and stuff. And and we told them other things. We tried to tell them other things, and they wouldn't pay attention. So I think out of maybe counting support people, probably 200 engineers, they took 16, mostly in flight controls. And they built the first one, and it was 5,000 pounds overweight, and they couldn't get it off the ground. So we were very frustrated because, you know, you think in terms of a company and a team, and you're going to do it, help them out, and they were not only not receptive, they said, take the airplane apart, put it on a truck, take it to Aerospace Museum, wherever that is, Virginia, I think. And so we didn't help them at all. And so I thought, see, we're really smart, and they're not. Well, as time goes on, they were overweight and behind schedule, so they got 2.1 billion with a B additional dollars to fix all these problems, and so they got a lot more money than our little Skunk Works operation did. So I don't know. Maybe they know how to do it, but it just didn't seem right to us. Yeah.
Examples of a number of revolutionary aircraft developed on time scales of less than 2 years. NASA is currently working on the Orion Crew Capsule, which is an enlarged Apollo capsule. They've been working on it since 2002, which is 12 years, and it still has not flown with people in it. That's another 3 or 4 years out. What can you say about the organization and the way development is approached that can allow something to be developed in 22 months instead of 22 years?
Okay. Just a second. What happens is, if you get a large organization and there's a problem, it seems to us, a small organization, that all they really know how to do, and the problem is create a committee and authorize overtime. That's it. If you got a small group, you got problem solvers, and you do some brainstorming, and you don't have a lot of inertia keeping you from trying this fix and that fix. And if you have really sharp people, there's something about that team spirit. I can't really describe it, but if you've experienced it, it's synergism, and the brainstorming really is worthwhile. Let me tell you something about that I found when I was there about that. I went, I can't find the sheet, but I went to a aerospace symposium, and I think it was on a Titan missile, and they had these devices that remove, as the missile gets launched, it removes the fuel connectors to get them out of the road so the missile won't hit them as it's launched vertically. And the guy got up there and gave a pitch like this, and he said, we did this all in 1 year. And what do you think of that? And I said, well, if we took more than 2 weeks to do that at the Skunk Works, we get fired. I mean, it's incredible. If you give people, but apparently the work fills the time allotted to finish it or something. Art's nodding. I think that's probably true. Anyway, I can't explain it. I don't know the details of that module. I did work Saturn V on the Apollo first stage. And in that regard, I wanted to straighten this out. I'm a little side thing. You know, you see things, you make a mental note, you remember it. And I was looking at Harrison Schmitt, the astronaut that spoke here a few years ago. And he said the average age of the engineers on the Apollo program was 26. Okay, I think that's what he saw. He saw at Mission Control, he saw young computer guys on the monitors. But I was working on the first stage, And yeah, I was 26, but my boss was 36, his boss was 46, and his boss was 46. They had a lot of, we couldn't have done it without those experienced senior guys keeping us from making mistakes. So you got to have some good guidance there. And so I think seeing, that's probably what, is it Congressman or something? Senator Schmidt. I think he knew what he saw. Yes, sir.
Your picture of the SR-71 looked like it was mounted outdoors for display.
Yes, sir.
Behind it was a B-52 bomber.
Correct.
Where was this picture taken?
It's one of two places. I think it's at the SR-71 Park in Palmdale, but it could have been someplace else.
Well, I want to put out a plug for the state of Georgia, where I'm from. Warner Robins has a Air Force museum comparable almost to Wright-Patt. They have the SR-71 there, and that picture could have been there, is what I'm thinking. But you people who travel down I-75, when you get south of Macon, about 10 miles south is a road over to that museum. It may be 20 miles when you're on your way to Florida. Go over there for a couple hours. And it was built not with government money. It was retired Air Force workers who built that thing, and now we have one of the finest air museums in the world.
Okay, before I finish, I want to show you one more slide because I didn't use up all the time. Go ahead, sir.
You mentioned that the pilots flew it into the ground. Were these pilots, I assume they were trained instrument pilots?
Oh, yeah, but they didn't believe their instruments. Still made that mistake. And those pilots, actually two flew in because the second one follows his lead. He just follows there in front of him. So that's how they got the second one. But the vertical tail, one of them fluttered, means it goes like that and breaks. And they got home with just the other, they lost the V, and they got home that way. But we had a lot of work to do to fix. What saved that was, it wasn't a mirror image. These tails go like, these rudders go like this. They rotate at the bottom. And what happened was the mechanism here that rotates it isn't the same as that one. It's not a mirror image. And so the friction was different and it had a different amount of friction, and the friction kept both of them failing, one of them failed. And he was able to fly home with that. But then we had to change the bearings, and we ended up with Teflon bearings that have some material impregnated in it that'll take 70,000 psi. You normally think of Teflon as being real soft, and you have it in your skillets, probably some of you, and but they can actually build robust Teflon bearings now. Okay, I wanted to tell you, there's a slide I didn't show you, and then that's it. It was the second one you showed by accident. It's the one that says security. Yeah, I want to go over that. I want to go over that with you because a lot of people are interested, I think. It's compartmentalized, so if you're working on the landing gear, you don't have to worry about the propulsion system, and the stealth people are off in the side room, and you're not going to get in there, and you don't need to know, and so that's how it works. And you just work on what you need to know. And then they have badges that you have alphabet soup, called A, B, C, whatever it stands for, different programs. But if it's really carved out, black program, sometimes there's no letter associated with it, and there's no badges. So a lot of times the managers don't even know it exists, and you're not going to find out anything about it, even its existence. And there's a couple of those that exist yet today, even though I retired in 2005. Finally retired. I retired in 2000, and they called me back for 5 years. But anyway, in the security thing, you have no piggybacking. It means you go to the door, you hit the cipher or fingerprint, whatever they do to let you in. You go in, and there's a guy behind you. you close the door in his face, and he's got to go through the same thing. There's no piggybacking, but had that happen once, and they laid the guy off. It was a longer story, but let's see, what else? The document control is really something. You, see, the security people are administrators, and they don't know the technical stuff. So if you're working on technical something or other, and you create a new document, they come up to you and say, what classification? Is this confidential, or is it secret or top secret? In this case I'm going to talk to you about, it was a top secret program. And the first time that happened to me, you have to decide the level of classification of your work. Well, that's weird, because you have to stop and think, well, if somebody that shouldn't have this got it, how bad would that be? Oh, wow. So that's how it's determined on a technical basis. Now, let's see, I'm going to tell you something else about that. Okay. You have the document, and they put a number on it, and they put your name on it, and they put the classification level. Okay. Then they store it for you in a vault. Like over in the corner, there's a vault, and they keep track of all that stuff. Well, other people can sign out that document. That, say we all worked on one program, you could sign out my document. So wait a minute, if you lose it, am I responsible? Well, no, he signed out for it. Yeah, but it's still got my name on it. So there's a lot of situations that come up that are concerning, involving security and the responsibility. And one time, I had to, it was a wind tunnel test on a $1 million model, only about that big, but it cost $1 million to build. And it was a supersonic wind tunnel. We didn't have one that could do the job. So we worked with another company that had one. And when I went, I wanted a high-speed video. Back then it was VHS, not digital. And so I said, I want a high-speed camera. We got one in Georgia. They wouldn't lend it to us. So security said, well, we'll get one from Eastman Kodak. And I said, wait. You're going to rent a camera from outside, a video camera, that takes 500 frames a second, equivalent, and you're going to run it in a secret program, and is it going to have a buffer in it? And they said, we don't know. I said, well, I'm not going there. I'm not going to use it. And they said, you're overreacting. I said, no, I'm not going to do it. So we had a big meeting, and finally they said, okay, you can erase it, you can do what you want with the video after we give a copy to security on site. I said, okay. So I went there, and we took the supersonic video of a supersonic wind tunnel, took the video, and then I took it and put the cap on and recorded it, you know, in black. Then I put it in a bright light and recorded it for 15 minutes, and hoping there's no buffer that's smarter than that in it. And that was it. We gave it security. They turned the video camera back to Eastman Kodak shop out on the mall. And about a year later, security comes up, two guys said, do you remember? I said, yeah, I remember. And they said, what happened? Do you remember? Because I said, well, I gave the video to this other company's security person. They gave me a signed receipt. I have it right here. I turned it over to a security person on site. And they said, oh, is that all? And I said, no. Took the camera and did the things I just told you. And they said, oh, that was good, that was good. I said, what's the excitement? Well, they moved that facility, and that video got lost. And it was secret. And I've got my paperwork, and I know what I did to the camera, so they were glad because we took those extra steps. It didn't make them look as careless, as all worried about that. But it is serious business, and it's hard to tell the seriousness if it gets out there. So I want to define for you, secret is the release of this, unauthorized release of this information would be serious, provide serious damage to national security. Top secret would cause grave damage to national security. Now, can I have the next slide? Okay, this is how the system gets abused. Those are the two definitions I just gave you. John Lennon's FBI file was classified as secret for 25 years after he was killed. I don't know how a beetle can be a serious threat to national security. I think it can be a serious threat to individual job security of people that were harassing him, trying to set him up, trying to deport him. And Lee Harvey Oswald, 1962, his last income tax he ever filed, is still classified as secret. So that suggests that there's something in his income tax return that suggests maybe he had a connection that the Warren Commission overlooked.
Thank you very much for that fascinating talk. We need to regroup back in our original room as soon as possible. Thank you.